Hi, hello, and welcome back to In the Middle of us doing a bunch of extras.
The extras episode.
Especially considering the last couple episodes consisted of us finishing Dialtown and then starting the insane extras menu. So yeah, let's get back into this.
As it turns out, there's a lot more extras than maybe we thought.
Yes.
Les character sheets.
Meager amount of cut content. Back to menu.
Name, phone, type, Genji, or whatever name you happen to give this wretched little creature. Age, birthday. This character has treats and teats and green flesh, and somehow those weren't the weirdest of Genji's traits. Genji's head is made out of stitched together leathers, burlaps, and fabrics and skins. Genji reeks. Genji has at least one eye and a long tongue under its stitched head sheath. Genji lost its tail promptly before the events of Dialtown began, and by the end of the game it regrows, but its appearance is randomized. Oh, it's randomized! That's interesting. Genji is genderless in the sense that, due to its strange biology and lack of coherent personality, whatever you refer
Personal identity.
Lack of personal identity, whatever you refer to Genji as, is always going to be correct. There are no wrong answers. Genji has spent a lot of time in Dialtown's sewers and has some childhood memories involving clowns. Whether or not these are fabricated is up for you to decide. Genji doesn't seem to fit into any biological genus all that well, displaying traits from mammals, body hair, teeth, traits from non-apes, traits from amphibians, slimy, long, sticky tongue, possibly unable to drown? Reptilian characteristics, able to turn the brain off to conserve energy, regrow its own tail, the ability to produce venom, even having the circulatory system of a crab, blue blood mainly used for passive transport, veinless instead of active transport, pressurized blood flows in veins. There certainly isn't anything quite like Genji around. Genji has no attention span, has astonishingly bad memory, being unable to remember far into the past, making Genji's exact origins a mystery. God implies he's never encountered Genji before, and Genji happens to be a timeline-exclusive anomaly. Where did Genji come from? Where is Genji going? That's rhetorical. Genji's likely heading for that dumpster. Free food. Relationships. Randy. Genji scares Randy, but also fixed Randy's life somewhat. Phone Genji casually talks about eating Randy because the strong must devour the weak. And Randy believes this will one day happen and hasn't gotten to the police because he's unsure if the police are still angry with him. No idea what this means. Oliver. Oliver is really, really into Phone Genji, and this itself must be a punishable offense in some states, I'm sure. Karen. Despite their many legal battles over devoured paint and trivial matters such as trespassing and breaking and entering over yogurt-related grievances, Karen loves Genji dearly. Bigfoot. Bigfoot is sandwiched firmly between gravels and sax solos that sound like pure sex on Genji's list of favorite things ever. Enough said. Norm. Norm has more faith in Genji than anyone else in Dialtown, feeling that the faith Genji had in Norm is the reason that he's still alive. Norm rolls his physical, freakish human free dial-up eyeballs at Genji's tomfoolery, but holds a deep respect and loyalty for Genji, always prepared to threaten and/or maim people who'd do harm to Genji. Jerry. Jerry, not unlike Norm, had an awful first encounter with Genji and ended their relationship realizing that Genji does keep its promises, if nothing else. However, much like Karen, Jerry is also enjoying his distance from Genji. Mingus! Mingus has largely worked through her vindictive grudge for Genji, realizing that it is unhealthy to hate a literal creature merely for resembling your amnesiac grandfather in, directly thwarting your postcard recreation project. Mingus would destroy Genji's tent if Norm wasn't watching. Problem is, how are you supposed to know when Norm's like asleep when he has a paper bag over his head? I swear the dude never actually sleeps. Little Billy thinks Genji is a massive self-important frog because he hasn't learned about mutants in school yet. This is customary when Billy spots a frog. Billy has his eyes peeled for a magnifying glass large enough to use on a sunny day in order to burn Genji into a tiny charred speck on the ground. Yikes. Genji and the hobo get along fine. They are both somewhat apathetic and eat out of dumpsters, which is wonderful and makes them overall quite compatible. Though God does feel a certain uneasiness around Genji due to Genji almost certainly not being a timeline-specific anomaly.
I'd like to. Oh boy, this is quite a lot more reading. I'd be looking at some fun pictures.
Yeah.
No, there's actually commentary.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool commentary.
Name, Randall V. Jade. 25, February 19th. Oh, cool.
That's neat.
As of the end of Dialtown, Randy works in a ticket booth. He has a pet possum and a pet swan.
Oh.
They don't get on. Randy is hoping one will scare off the other. Part of Randy wants the swans to stay because it's a good guard dog. On the other hand, he says that he finds the possum relatable. Randy will not elaborate on what he means by that.
Ha!
Randy's embarrassed of his middle name. Randy's been avoiding calls from his dad for years because he doesn't know how to explain to his dad that he, in fact, hasn't been pursuing a master's degree in pharmaceutical chemistry, and is in fact actually living in squalor. Randy's dad is still not all that impressed with him, despite Randy lying about every aspect of his life, which is as hilarious as it is sad. Actually, I think it's slightly funnier than sad. What an A. Randy has a head injury that he never shuts up about. Randy has submissive pheromones, but you knew that. Randy stinks, but given the circumstances, we have to be understanding about this. Well, we don't have to be. Do as you wish, I suppose. Phone Genji scares Randy is also
Oh, this one's...
Yeah, same.
That's the same.
Karen tolerates Randy since Phone Genji does. But to be honest, Karen really wants to hang an air freshener designed for a car from Randy's head without asking first. She hasn't mustered up the courage because she's afraid he'll take it as an insult because he stinks, or perhaps start bawling because she legally gave him a gift, something he ordinarily doesn't receive. Unless you count Phone Genji dragging hunted roadkill to the hut door of Randy's home job as a gift, that is. Oliver and Randy go way back. One time Oliver called Randy a meathead after a board game night turned sour, and Randy cried in the closet. Don't worry, their friendship has since mended.
That does explain why they have a familiarity with each other, though.
Yeah. Randy is somewhat afraid of Bigfoot, since Bigfoot is a large and imposing feral ape man. On the other hand, Randy is at least somewhat afraid of a good portion of everyone who he meets. That evens out the playing field in this case, I guess. Norm views Randy as a relatively likable sea urchin. There's no respect there, but Norm would loan Randy money if he asked. Maybe. Mingus would totally use Randy as a stress ball if they were to ever cross paths. Let's hope they never do. Randy would rather drink bleach than encounter Little Billy. Let's face it, Little Billy would likely trick Randy into drinking bleach if they met. So by drinking it of his own in this analogy, he'd end up in the same hospital ER room, getting his stomach pumped, and be spared a conversation with Little Billy. Randy and God don't get on. God technically created Randy, and Randy is struggling to come to terms with why someone would do that to him.
Karen Rose Dunn. Age 30. Birthday September 20th. Very
cool.
Close to yours. Karen is somewhat reserved, but that's okay. If everyone in Dialtown acted like Genji and Oliver, Dialtown would become the smoldering cesspit within hours. Somebody has to act normal around here. Likes. Horses, art, soft things, fidget spinners. She only plays with them when the blinds are closed out of pure shame. The number 27, she enjoys how it looks like a prime number, but has factors like a numerical Soviet spy. 30s, Christmas movies, phone Genji in small doses, dislikes loud noises, phone Genji in large doses, related to prior listing, being hit in the kneecaps with a mallet, people who smile at you with human teeth. Where'd they get those? The Pope. She thinks his hat is silly and an all an elaborate millennia-long setup that she refuses to fall for. That frog puppet who she feels thinks he's secretly too good to return her letters. All accidentally imagining what Randy's childhood must have been like for him to end up like this. Karen's a versatile artist, but unfortunately is unable to paint underwater. She's working on this for some reason. Karen, no! She has sued Phone Genji exactly 7 times to my knowledge, never personal, of course. According to Karen, she just really needs that green censored to get the hint and stop eating my paints. Genji has not detected a pattern despite being sued for the same exact thing at least 7 distinct occasions. That one's the same. That one's also the same. Right, yes it is.
Yeah.
Karen and Oliver have more or less had minimal contact. I think on some level they would really be able to geek out over obscure artsy things, but on the other, it is also true that she once referred to him as a sentient contact. A sentient contact, hi? Which I'll let you make up your own mind about. Bigfoot was Karen's favorite reoccurring customer. He was fairly mannerly, and she got to hand a banana to a funny monkey whenever he appeared in front of her. Come on, man, highlight of her goddamn day. Norm left a fairly awful first impression on Karen. While the two aren't quite friends now, Karen has a quiet respect for Norm. On the account of good work that he's done for Dialtown since his return, Karen appreciates efficiency and hates bullshit, so Norm's leadership style is something that Karen cherishes. Karen mainly knows Jerry as that one dude who used to roll up to the counter at the bank that Karen manned whenever payday rolled around, and then badly held back tears as he got lighter and lighter envelopes full of coins from his boss each passing month. Ouch. Karen has a disdain for Mayor Mingus. Karen hates idioms, metaphors, and unexplained allegories. So a woman whose every public word is a single thread in a deftly woven web of conceit is someone that Karen could never see eye to eye with. She's one of the main reasons Karen was so eager to up and leave Dialtown when she got the opportunity. Karen would have punted little Billy had at a prior date had the bank not installed CCTV cameras.
Huh.
Olive Man! Why does that say the 4th?
Oliver Swift the 4th. Age 23. Born October 22nd. Oliver is probably the most interesting guy you'll ever talk about obscure Japanese stop-motion movies with unabashed or subway car. Probably. To be clear, no, Oliver was not preceded by 3 separate Oliver Swifts. He just added the 4 to his name on a whim.
Aww.
Every time he gets a raise at work, he fist bumps and screams, "Hot dog!" and amends his driving license by increasing the number suffix he scrawled to the right of his name by exactly 1. No, Oliver doesn't currently drive. I don't know where he got that license. Oliver is an orphan. He once spoke to his therapist about his dead parents and more or less stated that he isn't all that resentful about the fact that his parents went and died on him, but was pretty miffed that his mother didn't just give it a week and give birth to him on Halloween night on the dot in order to maximize my groovy lunar frequency dude. Oliver's therapist has decided to see clients who don't give her migraines. That means other clients. Oliver's fez was gifted to him by a strange Armenian fortune teller who told him that he would one day use the very same fez to either free mankind of its shackles or dominate all sentient life in the Now I'm just effing with you. Mr. Dickens forgot it was his birthday, and it happened to be the first thing he saw when he rushed into a random costume store on the way to work. Oliver and Mr. Dickens sometimes finish each other's sentences. The issue is, one is overwhelmingly British and the other's Oliver. So while the concoction of lingos do form a complete sentence, they often come out sounding like New England jazz-era socialite having a stroke. That or someone from Liverpool. It's pretty foul. Oliver recently caught up with Gabby over at the old phone store. She's mighty proud of him.
That's the same.
Yeah. Oliver adores Bigfoot almost as much as Gingy does, which is already alarming because, like, Gingy is Gingy, you know? What's his excuse, huh? Anyway, Oliver, like Gingy, was a closeted believer in all things Squatch before emerging to embrace his hairy banana-loving savior. Yeah. Norm didn't kill Mingus in the good ending of Dialtown. Oliver thought that was a pretty groovy move overall. As such, Oliver has forgiven Norm for trying to kill a politician he dislikes and enjoys listening to his pre-dial-up era stories again. He kinda adopted Norm as a second surrogate father.
Aww.
If Oliver's therapist was still talking to him, the whole having an excessive number of adoptive dads thing would be a good issue for them to work through. Christ, I swear it'll be Randy next. Jerry is somewhat afraid of Oliver, the horrendous movie he birthed alongside the fact that he willingly went on a romantic date with Gingy without being tricked or manipulated are two good reasons why. He'd be polite to Oliver in social gatherings, given the amount of mutual friends they have, but he'd likely have Oliver-related nightmares that week. Nothing personal, as Oliver says. I guess Jerry's just a wet blanket. If he needs me, I'll be over here in Fat City. Wherever the F any of that means. Oliver isn't fond of Mingus, but also acknowledges that she's a somewhat competent ruler that keeps the lights on. He'd like to see her get dethroned, but doesn't really know who he thinks is qualified to take her spot. Bono? Bono?
Bono.
Bono? Hell if he knows. The guy's a god-dang himbo. Next.
Correct.
Oliver would throw little Billy into an active volcano if the two were ever close enough. Such a spicy mountain. Oliver has thrown Billy at things that aren't volcanoes, and has confirmed to me that if he had the chance, he'd advanced to a volcano toss any day of the week. Oliver is kinda just confused by Hobo. One time Oliver responded to God, begging for change off him by responding, "Hey, can you spare any change, dude?" To which God responded, "Aha, the old switcheroo, classic." Then immediately laid down, curled up, and fell asleep on the street. Oliver hasn't gone more than a week without thinking about this encounter. This is the moment it occurred. Apparently they watch bad movies together and eat
Omelets, yeah. Bigfoot, alias Sasquatch Yeti Yowie, Michael S. Squatch. Year of birth, who fucking knows? Possibly June 19th, as somehow Bigfoot was always aware of when this day comes around and demands a banana from literally everyone he comes across on that day. 20-something years ago, a human woman birthed me and every detail of my life from that moment that could have been entirely different had I made better choices. But no, right now I'm writing Bigfoot's goddamn character sheet for Dialtown phone dating sim. I know how it all went wrong, but I can't fully accept it. Is there any such thing as a life refund? Can I give it all to another go, please? Bigfoot is a large ape man who travels across the United States, not unlike a migratory bird, but, you know, flightless and bigger, and also not feathery and sort of fuzzy. But, okay, yeah, I realize I'm essentially describing an ostrich, but come on, they clearly aren't one-to-one. This is Plato's man all over again, I swear to God. Bigfoot hangs around Dialtown because while the flux of Earth's magnetism allows Bigfoot's magnet-oriented homing instinct to guide him all around the country, sprinting from bush to bush, tree to tree, fast food joint to pornography store, he's already blended in with. He's already blended in well with those places. Think of their usual clientele, but due to Mayor Mingus's increasing amount of lead being pulled out of the ground to be used for Dialtown's manufacturing sector, the change in magnetism in Dialtown's vicinity has caused Bigfoot's homing instincts to go nuts, and he's just sprinting confusedly around the perimeter of Dialtown. Bigfoot likes bananas. He's also very hairy. I can't do this. I can't fucking do this one. Sasquatch, come on, you know who he is. You get this deal. Ooh, babe, banana, that's him. That's Bigfoot. Okay, we got that one. We got those.
Yeah.
Norm is still adjusting to Bigfoot being real. Meanwhile, Bigfoot has fully adjusted to Norm being real. From this, we can deduce that Bigfoot is simply more open-minded than Norm. Bigfoot and Jerry have had minimal contact. One time they did see each other face to face. Mary's mind exploded. That happens, apparently. I don't know how Bigfoot copes around cats. I'll get back to you on this one for Mingus. Billy. In Bigfoot's bad ending, he beats the living daylights out of Billy, and I feel like even though this isn't the main ending, it must be taken into account. They say animals can read auras, and to be frank, Bigfoot was clearly onto something when he decided how he felt about Billy in that exact moment. God, what do you expect me to say about this, huh? What would Bigfoot and God even talk about, huh? Huh? Come on, man. Just let me go. I want this, my goddamn deathbed, and Billy Joel isn't gonna leave all my earthly possessions to himself, damn it.
Sergeant Norman G. Allen. Exact age unknown, born August 25th. Norm was born at the very onset of the Great Depression and grew up in a small, unincorporated township in the state of Arizona. Norm was always strong-willed and worked as a ranch hand for most of his adolescence, supporting his sick mother after his father upped and left town. Norm struggled to make ends meet and developed an anti-elite attitude stemming from the recurring question that kept him awake at night: why are me and my sick, widowed ma struggling to put food on the table all because some East Coast city slickers had a pretend stock market crash? Norm never let go of his resentment for politicians and big business as a result of this. While in Korea, Mrs. Allen's health plummeted due to complications from the polio virus she was infected with. He sent money back for the remainder of the war, but shortly after being discharged returning home, Mrs. Allen passed. Shortly after burying her, he was offered an Army scholarship and took it, realizing that he wasn't able to bear the silence of his old home anymore. Norm earned a PhD in theoretical astrophysics. I suppose he was.
He's an astronaut.
Sometimes advanced terminology leaks through his dialogue, but he keeps this a secret due to his relative dislike of Ivy League academic environments. His name is Dr. Sargent.
Dr. Sargent Norm!
When Callum Crown first ran for president for the election of 1960, Norm gravitated toward his campaign, recognizing Callum from his prosthetics company, whose logo is printed on the braces his mother used to walk after her motor skills degraded. Norm grew attached to Callum as a leader quickly, realizing he was also from a small town like he was, and held a similar distaste for elitist power structure. Callum was able to unite both sides of the political aisle against the special interests that Callum fought against, gaining Norm's loyal support. Due to Norm's hard-headedness, he'd likely never admit that some of Callum's ideas secretly made him deeply uncomfortable, mainly the dial-up and the expansion of government control. Norm champions Callum as a populist hero with a strong and uncompromising moral character, as a self-made who climbed out of poverty using only his own metal. Deep down, him and Callum are likely as unlike as two people could be.
Very good point there.
Norm is alive today because Ginji had faith in him. Sometimes all it takes is a little faith.
Okay, so... all that
yeah.
is the same.
Yeah, all the same.
All the same. Jerry.
Norm has shot at Jerry a few times in the past.
Oh my gosh.
Jerry has accepted this and moved forward with peace and love in his heart. As Jerry's therapist says, "Don't worry, Jerry. It's okay to let go. Even without the specific trauma, your life is bad for other reasons." Norm kinda despises Mayor Mingus, but has slowly learned to work with her. and certainly hasn't tried to kill her recently. Meanwhile, Mingus has actually warmed up to Norm. It's kind of crazy to her that she has a worker that she can pitch ideas to, and then the ideas get done. No duct tape, no false mustaches, no juvenile parole violations, nothing. Norm also watches Mingus, which keeps Mingus in check and stops her from acting out schemes. She secretly appreciates that he's stopping her from acting out her worst impulses.
That's great.
Norm has many gut-wrenching regrets. Not shooting Little Billy during the subway showdown. The final route isn't on the specific list for legal reasons. But Norm still brings it up whenever he drinks and gets sad, so I think we can add it to the list. Billy really wants to see what's underneath Norm's bag. I don't know why I don't want to know. Probably wants to take the poor F's eyes. God dang animal. Norm did fry that omelet up for God. God thanked him. Two get on pretty well now, all things considered. Norm kinda gave up on God around the time of his exile, but now he's learned that God's kinda winging it just like you and me, and really somehow can't cook an effing omelet. So being older than most of time itself, that's pretty cringe. He's older than omelets.
He's older than omelets. Jerry Gold? Maybe? Ticket Jerry, age 30, birthday February 12th.
Aww.
So he had a birthday right before the game starts.
He did, yeah, because we see the cake.
Oh. Jerry is an incredibly tortured man, a tiny, broken little man. Jerry used to work for Abel Brennigan at the town fun fair before being let go for allowing Genji to pass through the gates for a second time without a ticket. Jerry is married, but the marriage is not going smoothly. Aside from his tendency to work dead-end jobs, he's also on the brink of financial ruin due to the fact that he has exactly 12 Alsatians, it's a dog, living in his house, and they're all sickly diseased from their Alsatian eczema and require many different kinds of expensive lotions / ointments to manage it.
God dang it, Jerry!
Jerry! I have 100% decided on a reason why Jerry hasn't simply parted with some or all of his diseased hounds that he lives with, and so I've compiled a list of possible explanations. Or you haven't 100% decided. 1. The dogs legally own the home somehow and they're allowing him to live there since he's feeding them. 2. The dogs are the closest thing he can give his wife to a child, and he's afraid that she'll leave if the dogs aren't rehomed. 3. Jerry thinks the dogs are keeping his wife busy enough that she hasn't had the time alone to seriously consider divorce yet. 4. No one will take his dogs from him. 5. Jerry tried to rehome them previously, but one of them called him Dad in clear English as the power band was rolling up, so he called it off. Jerry was on a lot of pain meds from phone Genji-induced concussion, so it is unknown if any of that actually happened. Number 6. His grandfather left him a locked box full of Nazi treasure that requires 13 German shepherd paws to open, and he's working on sourcing another to get the box open, which is really bothering his wife, as she's trying to get rid of some dogs, not accumulate more. Number 7 keeps going. He tried to get his dogs readopted, but accidentally wrote his own name on the readoption form. Luckily for him, Randy came to collect him, who gave up after 3 swings from Jerry, and one of his dog's names on the medical insurance form. If he gets rid of that dog, he loses all medical insurance because only immediate family is covered and will die. Unfortunately, he can't remember which dog has the insurance, and thus can't rehome any of them. The public rep for the insurance won't talk to him as he isn't the dog that owns the policy. None of the expensive lotions and ointments are covered by the plan because that would make Jerry's life much too easy. Oh gosh, okay. That's the same. I feel like this is different though. Jerry and Randy go way back, and Jerry's empathy kind of prevented him from stepping too far back from Randy. I mean, the guy approaches you and says, "Help, Jerry! I've got hot sauce in my eyes, and I have no eyes. And I dropped my keys in a puddle. Can I sleep on your couch?" Well, aside from sorry, Randy, but some of the dozens of Alsatians sleep on the couch. Best I can offer you is my porch and perhaps the roof. Karen mainly knows Jerry as that...
We've seen Karen.
We've seen Karen, okay.
Seen Oliver's.
Right, yes, okay.
The Randy one was different.
The Randy one was different, though.
Seen Bigfoot and Norm.
Mayor Mingus has barely thought directly about Jerry and likely never will again. Jerry had never had to worry about ensuring the copper wire in the walls of his home before meeting little Billy. Bastard. God, Jerry crosses the other street to avoid having to speak with God.
Mayor Mingus Crown, born Michelle Crown. Mingus being the name of Callan's old cat, which she took for herself. Age 36, born April 16th. Mingus is possibly the saddest character in Dialtown. Groomed from a young age by an underwhelming tiger parent, not a literal tiger. Her dad wasn't also a cat, Lamau. She spent her whole life in her grandfather's shadow, eventually abandoning the urge to gain her uncaring father's approval, instead craving her grandfather's approval above all else. The way her father spoke about Callum, often comparing Mingus's achievements unfavorably to his, combined with the fantasy Mingus had of Callum giving her the kind of love and reassurance her father never gave her, made Callum appear as a titan in her mind, both of the people he affected as a leader and a caring role model.
That's so sad!
Yeah. Mingus, due to how she was raised, is a Machiavellian Magi. Even when she attempts to do something good, increasing taxes from Dialtown citizens to invest back in education, as Pierre implies if you speak to Pierre about her while wandering around town, she does it via nefarious means, stealing the taxes back from her citizens via hired goons. Mingus also launders taxpayer money to use on luxury products, all in a desperate bid to fill the void deep within herself. She's never found success in her ceaseless struggle to fill the hole inside her, even now. Yeah, we've seen Genji. Use Randy as a stress ball. Karen has disdain for Mingus.
Yeah,
Oliver doesn't like Mingus. Bigfoot and cats. Norm. Barely thought about Jerry. Mingus spends time with little Billy because she figures that if he remains in her immediate vicinity, he's, in a sense, contained and cannot do quite as much damage to Dialtown. Fair enough. Little Billy is toying with the idea of burning Town Hall to the ground with carefully placed explosives scattered under one of the throw pillows that are shaped like Mingus's face. Scary child. Mingus really doesn't care much for God. She can't stand shoddy craftsmanship, and in a cosmic sense, God is basically just a drunk carpenter.
I mean, I can't argue with that logic. Little Billy, he's around 7-ish, I think? May 18th legally. Little Billy is Dialtown's most wretched resident. He isn't the most dangerous person in Dialtown's core universe, but honestly, he's probably somewhere within the top 10. He's Oliver Swift's arch nemesis, but to be frank, he's probably the arch nemesis of half of Dialtown's population. If you worked in retail in Dialtown, you've likely carried a knife on you at some point, because almost certainly due to Little Billy's shenanigans. Little Billy frequently mentions Colossal Billy, an extra-worldly entity who is apparently preparing to descend upon Dialtown's universe to pick at its scraps. But once the right time comes. I don't like thinking about this very much. We shall move on now. Thanks. Billy is the only resident of Dialtown that Mayor Mingus is afraid of. For tax reasons, all the money that Billy is paid by Mingus is officially stolen from the treasury. Billy is okay with this because he has aspirations to have his juvie record become as dense as possible. Right now they're cramming stuff into the margins of the page. Little Billy is looking forward to the pages of his record eventually being entirely doused in black ink, each brushstroke representing a distinct depraved crime of his. Little Billy is hot shit and he knows it. Even hired criminals, mercenaries aspire to be as bad as Little Billy, which is why Shooty and Stabby routinely use the term bozo.
Huh.
They're oh no. They're imitating someone much cooler than themselves, losers. Speaking of wretched slang terms, Billy also coined the word crungus, which is the worst slur imaginable in the Dialtown universe, because of course he did. Little Billy is friends on the Elder Council due to being such a Machiavellian little whittle scamp, which he uses to become Jarl? Is that Jarl?
Yeah.
Jarl of Riften? With the Imperials win the Civil War and wait, no. That's the wrong game. Let's see.
The frog, yeah. Bleach.
CCTV
Punch,
cameras. Yeah, Billy. Yeah, gut-wrenching regrets.
Keep him contained.
Yeah.
God.
Wait, no!
You can read that yourself.
Do you want to read that yourself or just keep reading it?
We're
gonna read it in God, right?
Yeah, we'll see it in God. God. The hobo's fine. Age? Yeah. Birthday? January 1st, I guess? I vaguely recall him saying that he set his birthday to Pancake Tuesday, hoping for free pancakes each year.
Ha!
God is a surreal sort of beast, I guess. He's been around since the start of the universe, perhaps before, and has a lot of administrative duties relating to keeping the universe running well that he seems to neglect. I guess if you were on the clock for all of eternity, you'd kind of tune it all out too, huh? From the brief moment where he goes somewhat ape-esque in Norm's route, we can discern that he has some degree of supernatural powers, but the fact that God uses them so frugally might indicate that his power isn't infinite and perhaps is somehow waning. He drinks a lot to keep things interesting, as he's been around for enough concurrent timelines that he can usually predict what's about to happen accurately when sober. But one has to wonder if he's drinking to cope with the knowledge that something only he knows about is coming. He would be the one to know, wouldn't he? He is quite close to Mikey Dialtown, who you can encounter in Uptown.
I don't remember a Mikey Dialtown. Does anyone remember that? Who
And
dat?
if you talk to God on the second day of Randy's route, Mikey will join him for a chat, and both will explain roughly how Dialtown's reality timelines work.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
God reveals that you, the player, are seemingly something only native to the timeline Dialtown's main game occupies.
Interesting.
God is a somewhat zen being, but this zen attitude mainly stems from the fact that he's seen just about everything a person can see, and from constantly having to cope with the knowledge that when the timeline next resets, he might end up in a timeline so different from the last one he was in that he'll be alone for a while, waiting for someone he shares a bond with to reappear. There's also a loneliness in starting a relationship with someone in a timeline where they don't recognize you at all, but you've married them in several other timelines. The trope of an uncaring God is almost a cliche at this point, but perhaps in this case it'd be better to describe Hobo as a god who desperately does his best not to care, because if he did, he'd struggle to cope with losing everything and having to start over again. God is often assumed to be a direct author insert due to the fact that I thought it'd be funny to have my face on God's screen, since I made a game named Dialtown. Meanwhile, God made the universe Dialtown takes place in. In reality, God is meant to be a cocktail of Diogenes, a Greek philosopher who jacked off in public, lived a barrel and was heavily associated with and often surrounded by stray dogs, and came out with sassy one-liners. Oh, and that sassy ghost-catching guy when he starred in that one movie where he does Monday like 8,000 times in a row and then gives up, disintegrating just moments before the credits roll. There's a giant rodent nearby too, come to think of it. Capybara, perhaps? Lord, what was the name of that movie? Oh, right, yeah. Anyway, God isn't me. He's a fictional character inside something I made, not an intentional insert, just a character with a visual gag that I granted. Never really explained properly. Sorry, the confusion's on me, fellas.
You're good. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. God is scared S-less of Little Billy. Little Billy keeps stating in God's presence that he's actually God, and God can tell that he means it. Alarming.
Very. Callum. President Callum Crown, former mayor of Dialtown, state senator, UN leader, chief architect of the dial-up, founder of Crown Prosthetics, inventor, best friend, loving family man. Year of birth 1923, born November 19th. Callum Crown was born in 1923. President Crown built his own legs, one of his arms, and achieved all of but one of his dreams. Callum is the only sentient human alive who is unable to comprehend this, as the result of losing all of his memories. A curious specimen, Callum was paranoid to a fault. The unfinished world of Dialtown is a good metaphor for his broken promises. It is unknown where Callum wanted to take the world, but perhaps we'll never know. Where would a rural inventor who built the legs he needed to walk go? What would he do to ensure he got his way? Callum isn't an NPC the audience quite ever met, since the two characters who discuss Callum most, Mingus and Norm, each have incredibly biased views about him. Meanwhile, Gabby over in Uptown finds him to be an uncomfortable topic if you press her on who Callum really was, and God tells you he's outright scared shitless of Callum, due to Callum playing God better than he does, huh? Interesting. Callum's positivity, idealism, hell, his uncompromising populist ideas aren't an act. There's no other shoe waiting to drop. He is exactly what he appears, and whether or not you think that's better or worse is up for yourself. They say, many a path to hell is paved with good intent. Callum saw the path that he felt humanity would really benefit from, and fought tooth and nail for it without compromise. Even if the dial-up came with so many advantages for the human race, the ability to replace non-organic parts of the head, to treat and cure some disabilities, developmental disorders, ample well-paying employment for the working class folks across America and later the world, etc., etc., people like Gabby can't help but wonder, was the dial-up something that he was entitled to make mandatory for the whole world? Callum's body was incredibly modified, another trait of his that was co-opted by his granddaughter. While Callum's robotic arm and legs immediately were visibly noticeable, he also possesses internal mechanics, somehow reinforcing all of his vital systems. Due to his paranoia, and all of his internal improvements were self-administered in surgical procedures he performed on himself while awake. Jeez, Callum, jeez.
Would explain how he's so old.
Yes. Due to his paranoia, all of his internal improvements were self-administered in surgical procedures performed while awake, yet his biological improvements are why he has remained alive for an unnaturally long time. Callum never accounted for a time when his mind would be gone, but his body was still ticking, you see. Inside Callum's head was a unique, complex system of clockwork-esque devices, always ticking subtly. This is a side effect of how he built his own head, constantly adding and removing pieces from his working head, staying awake the entire time since brain surgery requires the patient to stay awake to gauge overall lucidity after each and every incision. Lovely. Callum's head is the result of frenzied nights of adding and removing parts, building parts that intersect and loop in other parts, eventually utilizing cogs, gears, and spring-loaded devices as a way to keep his head's internals in perpetual motion. It is not known if Callum's long-lost memories have been entirely lost, or if they're being stored somewhere in his head. However, due to the complexity of his own head, Callum's paranoia spurring him to destroy his own personal schematics, doctors were unable to figure out how his head worked, and felt best to leave him in palliative care for the remainder of his days, not predicting whether he'd easily survive for another half century. Predicting that Callum was an impossibly hopeful man, a dreamer who left a trail of broken hearts behind him, above all else, a broken promise. Callum envisioned a future that could only culminate from him changing the whole world, but in the end, he didn't really change the world, but rather left a scar on its face. That, like all scars, will remain even after the memory of its origin fades away. One would argue this is a fitting end for Callum Crown.
Wow.
That's everything. Yes, very cool.
Back to menu.
A
Meager amount of cut content.
Alright. I guess I'll show you some of my game's horrible cut content now, okay? Apologies for the obnoxious font, by the way. This is my way of saying that if I can't be happy, then no one can.
Oh, no.
Behold, originally the player's mutant babies were gonna look like this. Now, this idea was scrapped once I realized that making these were more work for something that made zero lore sense. Like, come on, dude. The skin on Genji's head wasn't just there at birth, it was acquired. As you can likely tell, each baby was meant to represent each root, with its one having textures relevant to Randy's. Ah, interesting. The animal heads were nice because not only did they make more lore sense, but they were also just easier to make for fall. I'm actually not sure how you're supposed to pronounce roll on the floor laughing aside from just saying it out loud. Okay, so remember this ending where the timeline breaks down and there's a fucking raccoon and you see this?
No, actually.
No.
Dear.
Here, take a look at these bad boys. They were never gonna be actually added to the game, but still enjoy. Oh no!
No.
No, you broke the timeline.
You monster.
You monster. Here we have the bank, which is of course the screen in which we first encountered Karen on. Fun fact though, originally the screen's palette looked a lot like this. Okay. I changed the palette to match Karen's own color theme, of course, to diversify the game's background colors. That's neat. I found this gem in my main Dialtown raw asset folder. I don't know why I drew this, it just is. Here's a placeholder asset for Jerry and his flock. Used to be used before I edited something better. Here's a cut Randy pose. What a knobhead. This little talking animation for Mayor Mingus that's surrounded in darkness, yeah!
Yee.
Oh, here's a Oliver's cut proof of concept model on the left. On the right is un asset fini. I definitely think the one you went with is better.
Yeah.
Here's two placeholder assets animated, dear god. Finally, a bonus shot of an uncropped Oliver shot where the modeler's shadow is somehow breaking the rules of light in order to threaten me. Alright, that's it. Shows everybody. Isn't that amazing? The Dialtown's cut content isn't much shoddier than the content that wasn't cut. What? I shouldn't insult my own game? Why? What are the masses gonna do? Stop playing? This is endgame extras menu, pal. There's nothing left. I'm a dog, bereft of anything else to offer you. As Joseph... how do you pronounce Stalin's first name? I don't even think that is that.
Joseph.
Joseph Stalin once said...
Biases besties.
Yeah, that. I can't. I can't with words today. Alright. Legal exception, I am not responsible. Very nice. Alright, I think that's everything.
Yeah. Back to the main menu. Well, that was quite the trip.
That was fun. That was very informative. There are quite a few things we maybe could do still in Dialtown.
Yes. Obviously, going back and doing all of, like, the the various deaths would certainly be an option.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we will do that or not.
Maybe we'll take a break for a little bit.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed. We'll have to return for something else together at some point.
Something?
We've got some various ideas. Haven't quite decided on what to do exactly next.
But this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it quite thoroughly.
Yeah, same.
Alright, well have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, have a great day, and we will see you next time.